Is what you know about me, big GLONGLE.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Thirsty Thursday, which means it's another live night for Life with G podcast. It's your girl G, the Puerto Rican podcast princess, your favorite baby mama in the building, and we have JR per usual.
It's high noon.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? It's your boy JR. It's Thursday. I just want everybody to know that there's a lot of love out there. Hope everybody's having a lot of peace, tranquility, and really just tell somebody that you love them today. You know, that's all I really want you to do. Look to your left, to your right, and if you're alone, make a phone call. Tell them you love them. Peace.
I like that, JR. That was very nice. And I'm super, super, super excited to say that we have another special guest tonight. Miss LaDonna, who is a divorce coach, is here with us. LaDonna, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is LaDonna, and I am a non-traditional divorce coach. Uh,
Ooh.
what I'm talking about is I helped you with your mindset. I want you to move forward with grace, power, strength, and confidence. And that only comes when you work on your mind. So I'm not going to talk about logistics or who's going to get the babies. I'm just going to talk about how you can be successful.
Ooh. I love it. Y'all, I'm so excited. And she is such a sweetheart. And she's so knowledgeable as well. I'm really, really excited for this conversation. I know y'all are used to us kicking back, cutting up, and having fun. But sometimes we need to have these more serious conversations. And divorce is one of those topics. The one thing that I think sticks out to me the most, especially in 2025, is how much we celebrate breakups and divorces. And I want to talk about what happens when the dust settles. Before we get into all of that stuff, LaDonna, I do have a question for you. I believe when I was looking at your Instagram and your website, you are focused on divorce coaching for women. Do you do any divorce coaching for men as well?
I do. I do. I had someone last week that told me, hey, would you come and do a men's retreat? I'm like,
Mm,
and they said, yeah, what people don't understand is, the emphasis is on women because they're emotional. He said, but men, they take the same blow, especially when they
mm-hmm.
love someone. So I am going to do a men's retreat, and it's for Christian men. So that is very interesting. It's going to be my first because I'm used to
Nice.
an audience of female. But he was really adamant about making sure that men were taken care of as well. So here
I
I
love
go.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And shout out to you for taking that opportunity, kind of going out of what you may normally have thought your audience would be and extending that to men because you're absolutely right. Men are heavily affected by it as well. I do want to tap into the comments really quickly, say hello to everybody who's watching. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? Join the Life of G podcast fam. Hi, Panda. Panda's in the chat. She said, hey, y'all. Andra's here. She said, hey, G. Hi, y'all. Our audience, I think, is probably about 50-50, if not like 60-40 of divorcees. And the age range, I think, is about the same as what your audience typically is. So I think you guys are really going to benefit from this conversation. I just want to ask, what is your view on divorce? I know you're a divorce coach, but do you necessarily support it or do you consider it a last resort?
A last resort.
Okay.
Now, what I don't support is abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So when it gets to be abuse, but just because I don't like you anymore, or that is something that can be worked on. But
Right.
my view on marriage is marriage is golden.
Right.
I want to get married again, but I want people to know. But sometimes you have to get there, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
cross the bridge. And when you cross that bridge, it's more than saying, okay, these papers. It's some things that take you through some things mentally, physically, emotionally, but as a last resort, definitely not an
Yeah.
option. It's not a quick fix to that to making you a whole person because something happened that you need to work on. And
Yeah.
it's either or. Yes.
Yes, I agree with that completely. Me personally, I do also consider divorce a last resort. I myself am divorced. JR, what's your stance on divorce? You for it or you think it's a last resort? What you think?
Man, that's difficult. I don't even agree with marriage most of the time. So it's kind of tough. If you are going
Mm,
to get married, I believe divorce is I believe it should be punishable. It should be punishable. I think if you're going to make that grown decision to get married, combine families, combine cultures, then when you separate, that we even make that a thing. I don't think it should be a thing. I don't think you should be able to. But if you do, I think there should be a fine. I think there should be a big
fine.
fine. A
There
fine,
is a fine.
yeah, to
Mhm.
separation.
Divorce costs money.
Oh, no, I mean a fine. I mean like you make or consequences like jail time. I think if you file for divorce, it should lead to some type of jail time for you lying in front of God.
Mm.
Well, we do need to put the disclaimer in there that not everybody who's married does follow that practice, but
Of course.
most of you do take the traditional vows, and that is normally what people base it on. So, for the sake of this conversation, I do want to give y'all a heads up. I am a believer. I don't want to speak for Jr. Or Ladonna, but I would like to take it from a spiritual aspect as well. So, if hearing about God or talking about spirituality triggers you, I do apologize, but that is kind of the premise that I'm going to be speaking off of. So, just be prepared for that, y'all.
Wait, talking about G. What's the spirit? So you're telling me like you let's say you don't have vows. So are you more like we're gonna be together until we feel like we don't need to? Like, is that the vow? Like, what's the
Well, no,
point of the
I
marriage
take
then?
my vows, but I mean it's different for everybody.
Yeah, what would their point be though? That's what I'm saying. Like, what would the point of marriage be if it
A
isn't
lifelong
until death?
partnership.
Okay, so then the fine should still be jail time then for you lying
JR.
about lifetime partnership. Yeah, what's wrong with that?
All right, well, let's ask the expert since we have an expert here, the divorce coach herself. What do you think about JR's suggestion that people should be punished with a fine for divorcing?
They are punished. So JR, you're right. It is jail time for some people. Um, the punishment is that your whole dream, your whole life has stopped.
Mm,
Now you have to regroup. Your punishment is that you have spent years building something and now it's no longer there. You can't go across. It is a punishment. You do jail time. That's something that people don't like to talk about. People don't
mm,
like to talk about when the dust settles and you're standing there and you have years behind you, you have dreams behind you, and you have hopes behind you. Because I'm a Christian as well. It says, "Until death do you part."
mm,
But now you're standing here 10 years in, 3 years in, 5 years in, some people 20 and 30 years in, and it's gone. Your whole life
mhm,
as you knew it. And some men and women are intertwined with their significant other, their husband, their spouses. So their whole identity vanishes.
mhm.
So it's jail time. It really is. And they need to have more people who tell you now it's going to be jail time and you're going to be punished a lot. So,
Yeah.
But what
and
about that other?
you about the other.
Like,
Uh,
let's say I'm the one who left though. So I left. My mind was made up. That person's gonna hurt because they probably didn't expect it. Or they did expect it, but they still was in it forever. But me, I'm the one leaving. Am I gonna feel the same repercussions?
I'm going to tell you yes. I'm going to tell you the reason why I say yes. Um, my grandfather told me, and I know he's a wise man. The grass is always greener on the other side, but what you don't know, you have to water it. So if you had watered yours, it would have been green as well. So sometimes people are going, leaving because of an emotional decision, not rational, or they think that someone else can do this thing for them. Uh, and it always, most of the time, it doesn't end up well when
Mhm.
you have, actually left because, oh, I got this idea, you don't make me happy, or blah, 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 blah. So the other person is some penalties as well. It's because you have, like you said, you made a vow. You promised God and before witnesses and all of this kind of stuff that you're going to live till death do you part,
Mhm.
and you didn't. So it's no one's going to go out with any scars. Both parties are going to have scars. Period. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I want to ask you,
100%.
LaDonna, what motivated you to become a divorce coach? Was it something that you personally have dealt with? If you feel comfortable talking about that, like what led you into this line of work?
So let me tell you, and I think I kind of told you all in my pre-interview
Hmm.
prior to the podcast. People put so much energy into marriage counseling, uh, premarital counseling, before you break up counseling, and it's so much counseling, but they never tell you what happens after a divorce. They never tell you that. They never tell you that you're going to feel angry. You will
Hmm.
feel happy. You will feel sad. You will feel disgusted. You will feel hopeless. You will feel lonely because, in a couple of days, it's going to be Valentine. And so many
Hmm.
people will be going through their first Valentine alone. And it is a totally different feeling. You'll go through your first birthday alone, no more anniversaries, no more Christmases. You splitting two families, like his and her, the grandparents on either side, or your in laws. So, all the things that you're accustomed to uh, is gone.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I'm like, I'm not the only person that feels like this. But nobody tells you all of this. They just say, get the
Hmm.
divorce and go on with your life. And you're gonna be fine. And I realized it was a lot of work in order
Hmm.
to. It's a lot of work to become a successful person, a woman or man after this, because you have to deal with uh, your emotional self, but you got to keep on moving with what you have, your present self. So it was very difficult. And
Hmm.
I told God, I said, if you allow me to come through this, I will help others walk this journey as far as I can.
Mm.
So that was my promise to him. So with that, I'm willing to do the work with someone else to help them cross that bridge, because it's going to take time. Some less time than others, but it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Time
I
heals all wounds. This is true.
Time does heal all wounds. I do want to tap in briefly with the comments. We do have some reactions to JR's comment. Just Chica, welcome in. She said, WTF, a fine. Not worth a comment, welcome in. He said, she ain't lied yet, talking about LaDonna. Andra said, not jail time, but I think that marriage is work, and I think that we need to renew our marriage every few years like we renew driver's licenses. Frequent check-ins for sure. Just when Chica said, people's mind and feelings change. Also, if a relationship becomes neglectful, then why continue with it? Not worth a comment said, it should be harder to marry and simple to divorce. I feel like it should be difficult on both ends, even though, yeah, I think it was kind of easy for me to do both when the paperwork, as far as the paperwork is concerned, it was easy for me to do both. But the mental and emotional and spiritual hardship is something that I would not recommend for anybody. I do want to get into a couple stats because something that frequently gets brought up on our podcast and in other arenas and social media is that there is a pretty stark difference between the genders when it comes to who files for divorce. So we do have some stats here from Google that said women, at least as far as the American Sociological Association is concerned, women initiate around 69% of divorces in the United States, meaning that there's roughly a 39% difference between men and women filing for divorce. LaDonna, what do you think about that? Because I'm sure in your line of work you may predominantly run into women. Are these women sharing with you their reason for finally filing for divorce? And if so, what are those reasons typically?
So I think before we went on, I was talking about there is an age group.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna give my age, I'm gonna date myself. Years ago, people got married roughly around 20-ish or so.
Mhm.
That was the norm. Then women started to become career women. So now it's 35-ish, or and then going there that way.
Mhm.
It's two reasons that I see. One reason is they grew up. They didn't know who they were, and they attached themselves to somebody else, and then they grew up and said, "Oh, this is not." Uh, the second thing that I've seen is that they don't tend to their marriage, and I saw that in one of the comments. Date nights, that's important. It's the time with your spouse, being intentional. And
Mhm.
they felt like they were all alone in the marriage. I have a friend who she started out as a divorce coach, but now she's an infidelity coach.
Mm.
So infidelity, and they just can't get over that. They just
Yeah.
can't get over that because when they see their husband, or they, see, even if they've done it, it is something that really comes between people. So that
Mhm.
infidelity, that growing up, that infidelity, and being neglectful. So those are the three things that I mainly see when I'm talking to people who had.
Okay. And
Mm.
a follow up question to that, and then I do want to get to JR's reaction to that. Follow up question to that would be, do they happen to mention how long from the moment that they may have considered divorcing to the time when they actually file, how long it normally takes? Are these women typically moving very quickly, or does it seem like they take some time before they make such a big decision?
They take time. The majority of them said it was they majority of them said that they stayed and slowly began to move away
Resentment.
in their mind, move away. So they became distant, even though they were in the home together still.
Hmm.
They separated themselves, and then when they figured out it was enough, that's when sometimes I've talked to people said it took them 3 years to really decide, or 5 years, or I have a friend who said she knew it the 13th year, and they were
Mm.
married for 20. So it's not something that I think they get lost in identity. Like
Mm.
sometimes people um, get lost, wrapped up in their husband's identity, or years ago they would say, and you are probably too young. I'm dating myself. They would say, I would say, just for instance, I'll take myself. I would say, Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Wiles. I would actually use his name instead of
Hmm.
my.
Right.
So, and people get intertwined with that, and then they don't want to lose that identity because they didn't make an identity while they were married. So
Right.
that's the reason. Yeah.
Okay. So JR, as the male representation, I know that there's a comment here from Darren Woodson, so I do want to highlight that really quickly. He said, "Men don't forfeit their commitment based on happiness. Women base happiness on how much of the relationship is about me." That's interesting. JR, what is your reaction to what LaDonna was saying as far as maybe like how women are choosing to get a divorce and how long they take, as well as Mr. Woodson's comment there.
Yeah, man, that's tough though. No, you make a lot of good points when it comes to that. For me, of course, I always look at the root of it. Like
Mhm.
why, like what are you getting married for? What's the foundation of your marriage in the first place? What's the foundation of your commitment to each other? And a lot of the times, like, I hear that and I see it, and they do take a while to leave, but to me it's not because they're battling to stay. It's because it's convenient for them at the time. To just get up and leave when you're ready, whenever you're ready, would put them at an extreme disadvantage. But only because in most relationships nowadays, of course, the man is normally the breadwinner, and or the man is normally providing more. So of course, if I was a woman, I'm not leaving my man instantly, even though I'm ready to leave. And then after that, I don't know if they're giving them a fair shot of like, all right, I'm gonna stick here and do my role to protect the relationship, or if they're just like, I'm just gonna get everything I can until I'm ready to go. So it's hard for me to see it any other way. Or different way that is, though. I don't see it as more of a, I really am trying to make my marriage work. Probably at that older age, I could see women possibly doing that. But like you said, women are way more in their career fields right now, way more independent for like independent from a man now. So I don't know. I just see it a little different from that, if that makes any sense.
Yes, and I agree with you. I was looking at Darren, how much of women base the happiness on how much of the relationship is about me. Um, Now, I'm gonna go back to the Christian base.
Mhm.
So we are totally different. Men and that's the one thing that people, I don't know if people really understand that we really are different. Men and women are totally different. Um, I was because in my line of work, I kind of keep myself up to date and do lots of research on dating and things like that. And I was listening to a dating coach, and he said, "Let me tell you something. When a man asks you out, most women begin creating a life with the man because their brains are wired like that. Like he's gonna take me here, and we're gonna do that. Men don't do that. So it is crazy, and this was actually a man divorce coach, not relationship coach, and
Mhm.
he. I know that's what happens. You all start preparing. So men don't do that. So we are totally different. And if you talk about, if you bring the Bible and the scripture in, it says, and I know I'm about to offend some modern day women, but they even make reference to the weaker vessel. There it's in the Bible, the weaker vessel. So it tells you we're different. Also, and I'm gonna go back to marriage a little bit. There is two commandments or two things that's in the Bible. It says for the wife to obey your husband, and for the man to love your wife as Christ loved the church. It's a different type, and it's two different things for two different people. And when you say, and when Mr. Woodson says it's about me, it's really about her emotions. It's about taking, and you like, what's wrong with her? We got a whole lot of stuff going on with us. We have menopause, perimenopause, we have menstrual cycles, we have if you have girls in the house, all the girls don't have their cycle at the same time. I'm just saying it's so
Mhm.
Another one.
many things, so many things that people don't
Mhm.
at the people don't look at. So that's in the marriage. Now, I want you to take that same, everything that I just told you about. Now, take that same and break it in half. Now, you have, once, because men get children too now, a man with children and a woman with children, but they got the same dynamics going on. It's the same.
Mhm.
It hasn't changed. Now we just in two different places.
Yeah.
So we are different. If people, men are from Venus and all that Mars thing, that's a good book because it tells you
Yeah.
about how different we are. We don't think different. We think different. Like I was, and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be finished and let somebody else. But when I go, I'm a woman. So when I go shopping, I just go shopping. I'm just going in the mall or whatever, whatever, whatever. So now I have a partner. And he said, you don't be looking at, you're not aware of your surroundings. You just be moving around. I said, well, God is with me. He said, well, God, the other folks gonna have a gun.
Hmm.
So I was just saying that to say how different we are. Uh, he'll be walking behind, Jay be walking behind, looking around what's going on, looking at, and the woman be out front, just look at this. We'll just be moving around. So
Hmm.
we're different. We're different.
Very. I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that. But it's something about that, right? And this is what I say, because we're so different and we look at marriage so different. I truly don't believe that it's an equal playing field because we're different, right? So because I don't, and that's why I don't really believe in marriage, is because I think it's detrimental to the man in today's society. I think marriage is detrimental. So like, where can we go? And G, I definitely want your input because I know you looked at me funny. Where can we
Hmm.
go to where it's not detrimental to the man? Like, what can we put in place to make sure it's not detrimental for the man?
So are you asking me or her?
Both, kind of both. But I know G
Okay.
looked at me funny, so I definitely want G to give
Well,
me what she
because
thinking.
and let me speak on why I'm making the faces. Y'all know I'm dramatic, but I'm making the faces because it's really hard to bite my tongue. Um, I think two things. I feel like when it comes to marriage, you guys brag. A lot of you fellas brag about the fact that men are willing to stay in quote unquote unhappy relationships, and you negate the things that happen in the relationship when you are unhappy. There is a sense of neglect that happens. There is a breakdown in the communication. There is a breakdown in the intimacy that happens. All of these things are definitely going to affect the other person, as well as the children in the household or anybody who's in close proximity to that relationship. It's very much felt. So simply because you guys are not making the choice to leave doesn't mean that you're not checking out in some other way, shape, or form. And I feel like that is why a lot of these women are a little bit slower to move because they're waiting on that connection to come back. And I also want to say that I don't appreciate the lack of recognition that women do communicate when they are unhappy. Now, I know it's been said a million times that women expect you to read their minds, fellas, and I get it. Most of the time on some regular stuff, that's fine. But well, it's not fine, but that's typically the norm. But in my experience from stories that I've heard, living through it myself, and LaDonna can speak on this as well, I don't think that there's that many women who are thinking about their marriage, their family coming to an end, and not at least trying to communicate with their partner. I don't think there's that many women who just get up and go with no word. Does it happen? Sure, but I do think that they are at least trying to communicate and trying to save it to some extent. And with that, I will let LaDonna react.
You're okay. So think you have to have fun. And what I mean by fun, I mean the fun that you go back. I think when you come home,
Mm,
to have a space where you can be a girl again and a boy again
mm,
and leave the because men are it's so many things that men have to do to be men. And there's so many things now that women have to do to be women. And we bring that into the house. But the house is supposed to be fun. That's when
mhm.
we can be ourselves and do some of the things that everybody else can't do. Outside they can't. This is your safety net. I don't think that people are really transparent about that, about what they like to do, like what they like to, and especially if you marry young. Um, I like music, all type of music. Have always loved music, but some way I didn't enjoy music when I was married.
Mm.
So, and that's what I'm saying. When you start pulling back layers, I don't we lose ourselves just to make the other person happy, but then we end up not happy. And I think that's what happens, especially to women who marry early. And then on the late end, sometimes it's not a good thing to be married because you have created your own world and nobody else can come into it. Just be real. At some particular point, when you have created your own world, you can't, because somebody else gonna come in. That means you have to share. That means you have to uh, be respectful. You have to do all those things, and sometimes it's not fair.
Mhm.
It's they don't. And he was saying, do people come in on the same playing field? And I understand what he's saying. Sometimes it's for ulterior motives. I'm just gonna be honest. And some people do this, and it comes out raggedy on the other end, and it shows up, and it gets real ugly.
Mhm.
Most
It
definitely.
Yeah, it's not dust that settles, it's fire. You
Mhm.
know, put the fire out. So
I hear you, and I hear y'all, right? But this is the thing that it baffles me, right? This happiness and this comfortability that y'all are talking about. None of that has to do with marriage to me, right? And I said to me for a reason. To me, I think marriage is about family. That's it. Anything y'all are talking about, you can do without even being married. The only thing married does is put y'all investments together. Specifically, if you're married with the state, all it does is put y'all in the same taxes. But if you're not married in the state and you're talking about actually just a spiritual marriage, like G's talking about, right? You don't go off the paper contract. You just marry each other, saying you're going to be together forever. I would assume it's about family. And I think that's the reason why some people don't want to leave, because logically, the family dynamic has been statistically proven to be the best for children and for family. Is a two-parent household. It's been the best. So that's why a lot of people don't. It's logically just, hey, don't do that. Don't divorce or don't split if you're looking at family. So to sit here and say about happiness and all this other stuff, I do think that men sacrifice happiness to become to for marriage. I think they do in that kind of sense. And not in a way that they just cannot be happy. I'm just saying they will sacrifice. They will sacrifice whatever it may be to stay in that relationship for family.
I think we're to paint the picture or the narrative that women don't also stay when they are not having all of their emotional needs met or their emotional wants met is not an accurate picture to paint.
The family.
I get what you're saying,
Hmm.
but I think we need to maybe narrow in on what group of people we're talking about. Um, because as far as the message that I want to leave y'all with, and I think the message that LaDonna can really provide for a lot of you is hope. And I'm more concerned about providing hope for the people who went into the marriage with good intentions, the people who, during their marriage, put forth an effort to not let it go to waste. So that's the dynamic that I'm speaking of. That's
yes,
what I'm speaking of. That's my
Hope for
premise. So I feel like we might be
hope for
talking
what?
about hope hope that there is an opportunity to not be disappointed by a commitment like this. Hope that there is something good on the other end if you do end up having to have a divorce. Because I know for me personally, and I'm maybe this will be a voice for other women like me. I didn't want a divorce. As much crap that we went through, as abusive as things had gotten, I still thoroughly was invested in the sanctity of the marriage. We went to counseling. I tried to call in my support system. I did everything. I exhausted all efforts But when your partner isn't also investing in it and they're not trying, there's only so much that I can do. And I stayed for an extended period of time. So when the choice needed to be made, I was the one who made it, but it was not because I was the one who wanted it.
Okay.
Ladonna, what do you think about what JR was mentioning as far as family
So
needing to be the focus?
it is family, but what do you constitute as a family? Because once you married, it's a family, just the two of you without any children.
So
So
hold on, Ladonna. What about if they have no contract? Like if there's no contract there, what do you call that?
if they don't have a commitment to each other, are
Well,
you
no,
saying?
it's commitment. They live together. They bought the house together. All of that. There's just no contract. What do you call that?
You talking about the paperwork?
Yeah, there's no contractual marriage agreement.
So I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna tell you from a standpoint of experience and time. So when you are when two people live together, um, in my mind can leave when I want to. And I know people, some people can do it, but in reality, your mind, you got to think about, and that's the reason why I decided to be the person that works with the mind. Because if your mind is not right, is not going to work ever. So in your mind, and you all have to know the dynamics of your mind. Like we're talking now. I'm looking at you, you looking at me. Uh, we're all of our senses are working. It's the same way when you move. What is a partnership without the paper and paper with the paperwork? But in your mind, you all have to have the same mind, okay? Because if not, you're gonna say, I can leave when I get ready to. And
Yeah.
so you have to be on the same page. And I understand what you're saying. Some people work together wonderful without the paper. I understand that. But you also run the risk of when I get upset, I'm gonna go.
Mm,
And I agree with that
right.
100%. And that's why I said before that what you're talking about to me, and again, this is my opinion. Again, everybody has their own when it comes to marriage. But me specifically, when I said you're making a statement under God, I'm literally saying about that morality, that same mindset that you're talking about, right? That should be the reason. Till death do you part morally. Till, however, this is my forever person. Till sickness is in health. I, as a man, am responsible for this person. She, as a woman, understands who I am and looks for me for guidance and or support. That's what I'm talking about. Thoroughly through life, forever, is what I'm saying. So if they don't have that paper, but they still have those morals and they still live together and so forth and so forth, they're not technically married on paper. Again, you're still saying then they could just be left without the paper. They could just get up and leave. And with the paper, they can still get up and leave. All I'm saying is their priorities are all messed up because they're thinking about themselves instead of what marriage has always been about to begin with, which is creating a new culture for family. That is what it's always been about. So why did it change to a more selfish act of my happiness, your happiness, I'm unhappy, you're unhappy, I'm resentful, so forth and so forth? Why can't it go back to the priority of family?
Because we live in a culture of selfishness. It is what it
Yeah.
is. Everybody wants what makes them happy. Um, I'm gonna share something with you. If I could create a love, I would want to create a love. My grandmother died maybe 2, 3 weeks ago,
Mm,
and my grandfather, he brought her home, and she was on hospice on a ventilator, And they had this thing that they would do at night. They would pray together. They would hold hands and pray together. So he came in the room. I was at the bedside. He held her hand and he prayed together. They were praying together. And, and I could see her. She could hear him because as he was praying, she was crying. But the other part of it, so she passed away. Yesterday, I had a conversation. I would call them every day about 3 o'clock. I had a conversation with him and he said, my heart and my head is not together anymore.
Mm.
So I said that to say this. It is about family, but it's also about your heart and your head being together. And that's what I go back with the partnership, without the paper and all that kind of stuff. Your heart and your head have to be together. And he said, I just can't get it together anymore. And he said, I appreciate everything that you all are doing. And this was not a first marriage. This was like a second marriage. They were married 26 years. That's it. But he said his heart and his head, and that's the best way that I can explain it. He gave me that yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. When our heart and our head don't match, it's nobody's gonna stay. Nobody's gonna put in the work. Nobody's gonna, because your head. That's the reason why your mindset is so important, because your mind is going to control your heart. When you get something in your mind, your heart is going to start walking on that journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is about family, but it's also about when there's no children around. Can your heart and your head still be connected?
Mm.
Damn, I understand that.
That brought tears in my eyes. That's very profound. This conversation is very deep, and I know it affects a lot of y'all too. I do want to tap into the comments. Darren Woodson, you can join in the Discord link if you were in there. Apologies, we can get to you in just a moment if you want to hop back in. We would love to hear from you. Sunshine was giving him directions. Okay, perfect. Heather, welcome in, Heather. Going back to what LaDonna was saying earlier, Heather said there is so much that I didn't enjoy when I was married that I do enjoy now. Yeah, I think your overall happiness does affect even the activities that you used to love or that you now love when you're in a different headspace. She also said the person has to be in it with you. There has to be effort on both sides. I agree. Just Mona Chica said partnership, domestic. As far as your question, JR, like what do you call that? Heather said the paperwork is also financial protection for both parties. Yes, that is true as well. And Sunshine was helping Mr. Woodson again with getting in the Discord. Is he in the Discord right now?
Yeah.
Okay. We do want to limit those questions to about 30 to 45 seconds. Ask your question, and then we will release you so that way you can listen to it. And make sure that you mute the YouTube video in the background so that way there's not a delay on the audio for you while we're talking to you live. Let's go ahead and add him in. Hello, hello.
Oh, is Mr. Woodson here?
Yeah, his mic's just muted.
I can see him.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Oh,
Good.
This is
What's your
Darren calling all the
question?
way from Georgia. I really admire what y'all doing. I think y'all are speaking beautifully about marriage, and it's definitely a conversation that has to be had. But I can agree and disagree with a lot of things, and I think it's not disagreeing for argument. It's disagreeing because of a different perspective and position and role of a man.
Mm-hmm.
What you said about the heart and the head being together, I think is spot on, and I admire that. However, coming from a man's perspective, my heart has to be where my head is, but I can't lead with my heart, because if I lead with my heart, I can be easily manipulated. I have to lead with my head to be in a logical state to make the decision that's going to benefit my family. I'm here to protect, provide, and to create that space to where my family can thrive, but my wife can nurture my heart to where my mind can be in a place where it needs to be. I think the biggest misconception that we have nowadays when it comes to relationship and marriage is it's such an intricate thing, but if you get it almost right, it's beautiful. Nobody is perfect. Nobody will get it all the way right, but when you get close, it's beautiful. I
Mhm.
think we, as a current culture, we teach that dating is supposed to be fun and that dating is supposed to be a trial run. And we don't teach that you need to get yourself together before you introduce the manipulation of a man or the enticement of a woman.
Mm.
That can cause you to be scarred traumatically for the rest of your life, scars that can't be healed, scars and wounds that can't be closed. And then what do? We have men and women, we have men that have to hold on to these battered women and not be able to close the wounds, but I still have to provide her comfort and protection, knowing that I'll never get that peace in her mind. I will never be able to satisfy the comfort within her mind because she is so scarred and so battered. But I'm a lover and I'm gonna do everything I can to protect her. And it puts the man in a difficult position because he's already accepting to be in a relationship where he will not get nurtured the way he needs to to have his family be successful in a certain way. In the same way on the side of a woman, women get with these men that can't be the providers or the protectors because they have childhood trauma or they have trauma from previous women in relationships to where their mind is so used to being manipulated by their heart that they can't show compassion and they can't show the emotions that they need towards their wife to get them to understand, I'm not being rough, I'm not being hard to you, I'm being stern because this is who I have to be. We we glorify toxicity in relationships to where women are taught and they're groomed to follow your fantasies. Women get in the habit and the mode of taking their fantasies and making it their reality, and they neglect their reality. And that's why you have women get with these men that they fantasize about, but they know, I guarantee you, most women that get with men that they know aren't right for them, but girl, look at this. Girl, he could do this.
Mm.
And the same
Well,
with men. Men get with these women that they fantasize about, but they know that aren't right for them. I'm not compatible with this woman, but this is my fantasy.
Mhm.
well,
Okay.
we first and foremost, I do appreciate you calling in
My
and
bad.
sharing your perspective on it. Also, I told you 30 to 45 seconds, and I said question, and you made a
Oh,
statement for
I'm
about
sorry.
2 minutes. But it's
My
okay,
bad.
because we love you anyways at Life of G. We love you anyways. But no, seriously, thank you for coming in,
Thank
sharing your
y'all for
thoughts.
having
I
me.
would
I appreciate
love
it.
for us to expand on that. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, and y'all sound off in the comments as well in reaction to Mr. Woodson here and what he said. I want to hear what y'all got to think about us talking about this too. LaDonna, I want to give you the floor. Mr. Woodson said a lot. What is your reaction to what he said? Do you agree, disagree?
So I agree with like there are some points that I definitely agree. Um, Life has changed for us. I'm old enough to have seen the landscape of marriage and even the divorce change so much
Mm.
for the country, white and black, people of color, and things like that. And and I want to clarify something. My grandfather, of course, he's 81 years old, so you know that he believed in being the head and doing all these other good stuff. So
Hmm.
that was there. So he always led the family, but she was part of his heart. So they was part of each other's heart. And
Mm,
that's the reason why he was saying his head and his heart. Now she's gone, and part of that heart is gone. Um, women and men get married for strange reasons now.
mhm,
Really, really strange reason for and let's be honest, let's just put it on the table. Uh, Years ago, women got married for financial reasons. Just let's be honest, because
yeah,
they were not career women. They did not
mm,
make their own money. They had to be with someone who made their own money. Uh,
mhm,
and that's true. And 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 I'm gonna go back to my grandparents. My Because I remember I told you this is her second marriage. My
mhm,
grandfather, biological, had passed. He made her go to school. She couldn't drive, and he made her go to school and get a degree because he was older than she was. And he said,
mm,
I want you to have to marry because of money. So there was protection in covering her. So she was
mhm,
able to, after he passed, to walk into freedom. So whomever that came along, she was able to not to just see the man, not because of anything else. And like Mr. Woodson says, men look at the physical, they look at the physical. When you got the red lipstick on and you got the long flowing hair and you got the high heel shoes and you made up a certain way, they do. Oh, and they end. But sometimes when you get that person home and they take off the wig and they take off the high heel shoes,
mhm.
all these pads that they may have on, you don't know anymore.
Yeah,
You see he's correct. You see a battered person, but also that's when you need to make a choice. Are you really going to marry this person? And
mm,
and you also see that batterness and that hurt part and trauma part when you dating them. Sometimes we ignore it.
yeah. Ooh,
Ooh, I'm
I
tired of
am
ignoring it.
so good at ignoring stuff like that. Oh
Red
my
flags.
goodness. And then I label it as grace. But anyways, yes, absolutely. And I do think that grace is important, especially when you are in a marriage. Right? We cannot have the expectation of perfection from our partner. That's not realistic. I do want to highlight something that they were talking about in the comments earlier. Mr. Woodson had mentioned that, you don't, every marriage goes through an unhappy phase. And Andra countered back and said some marriages don't have an unhappy phase, but they have great communication and understanding and compromise and love. You don't need unhappy to make relationships stronger. So I think. Darren, I don't want to speak for you, but I think he's speaking more of just like hardships, in which case that's life. So you are gonna have like there are gonna be dips in a marriage. We all know that, and I think that dips do, if you can weather the storm, because that's why you got in the commitment, they do strengthen your marriage at the end of the day when you're able to come out of the other side of that and realize, okay, I still got your back, you still got mine. JR, what do you think about what Andra was saying about marriages not needing to go through that phase?
I agree. I agree with her. I do, 100%. Again, like I said, I don't think people prioritize the real reason they're getting married. I think they get married for all kinds of reasons, and that's why they do have those
Mhm.
hardships. They're not really checking that person to make sure they are good at communication. They're not checking that person to make sure that they do understand them as a person and you understand that other person. Like all that stuff can be easily defaulted in a way that's like, oh yeah, let's say we are having financial problems, right? If we having financial problems, that should be an easy talk, very simple talk. Shouldn't have to go through hardship, very easy talk. But if you're going through hardships, then why were you together in the first place? What I'm saying? How did y'all get to this far without going through understanding each other and understanding the intent? I don't want to have just financial problems, right? But now you're mad at me for going through this as my partner? That doesn't make sense. Definitely if I chose them right, but if I just chose them because we're in a relationship and the next step is a promise ring. And the next step after that is we live together. And the next step after that is I propose to you and we're going to get married. If you're looking at it from just like a step basis, then yeah, you're going to go through problems. But like Andra said, it's a good chance you're not going to have to if you do not just step, but if you check the boxes before you even get into that long-term, life-altering commitment. So I don't think you need to at all. Not even a little
But
bit.
but life happens,
Yeah.
right? So in that, natural stressors are going to make you feel down sometimes. Couples who a large reason for divorce or the breakdown in a marriage sometimes, or even the cause for a lot of infidelity, is when couples get together and they unfortunately miscarry, lose a child, or there's like an untimely death, something to that effect. There is a breakdown that happens. So like unhappiness can happen just in life, period. And I think that marriage and your relationship, your commitment is a choice. Do I love you enough to stay through this? Do I love you enough to put up with this? And if the answer is yes, then you continue on. And I think that's what we're all kind of coming to a place of agreement at least, is that we all need to take a moment to step back and make sure we're putting in intention and actual effort into a
No.
relationship. A marriage is not easy. So please don't take what JR is saying about, you shouldn't have to go through unhappiness as synonymous with marriage being easy, because it's not easy at all. And people need to mentally prepare for that.
Am I here for you, G? I mean, not specifically right now, but I'm saying if we were married, would I be there for you? Would my intentions show that I'm there for you? If you have to go through something and you take me out of the picture, that's your fault, and that's you messing up into the marriage. That does not mean I still can't step
That's
up and be
not,
there
but
for you.
we're always
We
putting
go
the
through it
blame
together.
on,
Not
right,
even.
but
I'm only
you
talking about
can't
your example.
control somebody though.
I'm only talking about your
And I
example.
think that that's okay. Again, you can't control how somebody reacts to something. So it may
Yeah.
not be me not wanting you to show up to that. You may be taking yourself out of the equation altogether, which I think happens more times than
And
not.
again, I'm talking about that's why you shouldn't be married to begin with if that's the way you react to problems. You should already
Can
go
you
through that
predict
before
how
marriage.
you're going to act in every situation?
You
And
should
if
at
you
least
think you're going
prepare.
to act, yes, you can prepare all day, but there's still no way of knowing if you've never gone through it. Even if you've seen examples of a couple losing a child, you saw how they handled it. That doesn't mean, if in my mind I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna stay with it because that's my husband and we're gonna be okay. When I'm going through it and it's happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
it is a choice. I'm not saying that it's not a choice to stay and work through that, but it's not an easy choice when your emotions are going high or you're dealing with trauma or a high stress situation. So
First
I
of
can't always predict. I can tell you what my intention is, but I can't control, and I can't predict the future.
And I understand that, but just as LaDonna said earlier, men and women are different. Women have all these things, what she said, these hormones that the comments said, all these different things that go through it, which you actually used an example right now of a mind altering thing. Even if it's not even a miscarriage, you can go with postpartum. Any of it is a
Yeah,
mind altering thing. And as a man
absolutely.
who wants to give this woman your last name, if you do not understand that simple thing, which is simple, you might think it's hard. That is so simple to understand, that women are not like you. Understand women are different. Understand women are emotional. If you can't even understand that to prepare to say, regardless of how she's moving, right? As long as it is not detrimental to the commitment, then I can be there for you. I don't see how that is difficult. Not even a little bit. I am going to stick with you, the person I gave my last name to. I made that vow without even giving a last name. I'm just going, if I decide, I'm going to stick with you no matter what. I don't see how that is difficult unless you're saying you're not here with me. And then if you don't understand my intentions, like I said before, communication is important, and you should already have that line of communication before you even get into that type of commitment.
That's very much easier said than done.
I think people don't want to practice it. I think it's more convenient not to go through those hard things. Hence why we have this podcast, to go through those hard conversations that people don't want to have, because people don't want to have them.
So, JR, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with from your conversation, you're a stand-up guy.
Of course.
So and that's totally different. A lots of people, even when they have sisters, they see their sisters, but they don't see a woman being with them. And then let me say this: I have two sons, I have two daughters, and I tell people what I see and what you may see is totally different because of the relationship. So you can say, I'm, I have all these sisters and they do in mom, I'm the only boy in the house and stuff, but you're not in, that's a totally different relationship. And some people try to put that person that they're with, their partner with, into a box with another woman that they may have seen familiar in their family,
Mhm.
but she really is not. And she's going to react different. And some people, they just need to have, this is what I said. This is what I said when the dust clears. This is what I said when I date. If your craziness and my craziness can go together and we can stand each other craziness, then we okay.
Absolutely.
But let me tell you, it's some crazy in me. And I'm gonna tell you, it's some crazy in you. So if I can understand your craziness and you can understand my craziness, then we good.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go silent or when I do something, he'll say, "That's your craziness, ain't it?" Yeah, because you don't have that, you don't communicate. You're correct, Jr. You don't communicate and talk about those things when the dust settles. You
Yeah.
don't talk about those things, and then you get into trouble.
Yeah.
You know, you get into trouble. Like you should say, when you come home, honey, I just want you just to don't think about nothing else. Just come home and be yourself. If you want to play the game, ain't nobody got no business talking about the game in my house. My husband playing the game. But you have to have those courageous, I call them courageous conversations. And
Mm-hmm.
you talk about, and you be able to talk about any and everything. And in time, no secrets. It takes time because all of us have things that we don't want to talk about, that we don't want to share. But it's very important that you communicate and talk about those ugly parts of yourself
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes,
see if they
I agree.
willing to accept it.
Yeah, but I still think you can be able to do that before you get married. But yes, I definitely
Yes.
agree 100% with that. And I think
I
that
think
right
so
there
too.
would,
But can I ask you something, JR? Because most of our conversations when we talk about arguments or things that might trigger the other gender, especially in romantic relationships, we always kind of end it with, is that something that we should know about our partner before we make them their partner? So a lot of these things, life altering things, can happen when you're married because married is a lifelong commitment. So who knows the type of shenanigans you're going to get thrown. How much preparing is too much preparing? Because there is a concept of men know what they want, and when they know that they want to get married to a woman, they're not really going to drag it out too long. So what would your suggestion for these people out here dating, how long do you think they should take before they would even consider getting married to somebody?
I don't think there's a time to it. I think it's all about your preparation for it in a way. Like I don't think your first date should be about asking what's your favorite color and what what I'm saying, what's
Hmm.
your favorite food. Your first date should be really on like really analyzing this person and their situations. Like she said, is the man walking on the right side of the road? Is the man really looking to protect me even though I'm in his care right now? Or even the opposite, is this woman really looking out for me when it comes to the social awareness? Am I acting goofy? Am I acting up? Am I not? Do I not understand the tone? Do I not understand like my environment of being inside of this setting in this restaurant or whatever it may be? It should be more of an analysis of how am I going to be with this person long term compared to, ooh, I want to have an experience with this person and just get along. People are dating for the wrong reasons, and that's why they get married for the wrong reasons. So I think if they date for
Well,
the right reasons of, is this person potentially a good wife and mother to take long term? Right? Or is she just recreational compared to the other one? Is this guy a good father, a good husband, a good protector long term? Or is this guy really just a very nice person who I can just have a meal with, and go home. Those things have to be considered on the first time you meet them, and then you build off of that. And it could take up to 1 month, or it could take 2 years, however you want to do it. It just depends on how long you see them. You can see somebody 3 times a week, right? That's what is that, 12 times a month? Or you might see somebody 1 time a week, and then that's like 12 times in a quarter of a year. It all depends on how many times you interact with this person to analyze this person and learn this person, understand them. That's all it takes. I don't put a time limit on it.
How can you? But a month is a very short amount of time. Even if I see you all 30 days, that's still 30 days. And I don't know if I can say I would know if I would be able to marry somebody in 30 or 31 days.
Yeah, again, I don't believe in altering people's way of movement, if that makes any sense. I don't believe in telling them how to treat me early. I believe in, if I'm going to want you, then I'm going to figure out how you want to be treated. A lot of people don't think, they know what they want to be treated, but they don't know how the other person wants to be treated. Like I said, it's a selfish thing nowadays. So if it's literally going on a date and saying I'm going to be unselfish, then all of this makes sense and it's all very easy. But if you're going on a date saying this is for me, my experience, my whatever men think, oh, sex, whatever women think, oh, free meal, however it may be, if you're looking at it just for yourself, then of course it's going to take you a longer time to say, oh, this person might have the potential. But if you're looking at it again unselfishly,
Right. And again, when I'm talking, because sometimes when you're talking, it seems a little bit different. When I'm talking about people that have the intention, the people who are dating to marry. I'm not even looking at the other people because I don't care if y'all want a one night stand. I'm talking about the woman who's looking for a husband and the man who's looking for a wife, and they
well,
want to be intentional about that.
I
Ladonna,
oh.
what? Oh, I'm sorry, Jr. Go ahead.
Oh, about just that understanding part. And this is, again, I
Yeah.
don't want to offend anybody out there, but I do believe this, and I do think it's changing, and I think we're changing it. But I've always believed this, is that women were raised to know what to expect from a man, but not how to treat them. And men were raised on how to treat a woman, but not to expect anything from a woman. And because of that, I think men should be raised on how to treat a woman and to have standards of that woman, to know expectations for that woman, just as much as women should know how to treat a man and also have expectations for that man. I think both need to apply to both parties.
I'm not back again. Can you repeat your statement?
He said a mouthful,
Yeah,
Right.
women
very fast.
women are brought on how to, or raised on how to expect something from a man, but not how to treat them.
Get out there.
Right there.
What are we talking about? What type of women are you talking about?
Of the women who don't understand men, because they only know what to expect from a man. Open my door, chivalry, pay for my meal, whatever it may be. Make sure I'm protected. Fight for me on the
Where
first date.
where are
That's
you
normal.
getting the mindset that women are not being raised on how to treat a man, but only what to expect from a man?
Okay,
And
well,
ladies, sound off in the comments on if you would agree with that. Y'all being ladies, y'all speak
okay,
for
well,
yourselves. This is an
yeah.
assumption.
Everybody in the
Go ahead.
comments, all women in the comments. What do men want? Go ahead, just answer the question, and we'll see what they say when if they respond. And G, I can ask you the same thing. What do men want? Before I even ask Ladonna, I'm gonna ask you, what do men want? Since you know how to, like, the understanding of a man, what do men want?
So I'm
Go
gonna
ahead,
tell
Ladonna.
you, different people want different things.
Okay.
It's not it's not, no. It's, and it goes both ways. Different people want different things. What you have to be is really observant. Okay, so you observe some things. You observe people. Not, there is no like a box you can put things in. You have to, because you may like to go in the sunshine. Somebody else may like the rain. So everybody has different. They come with different. Everybody come with different experience, and they come with different childhood experiences. Because you
Mm-hmm.
about your mom and your dad supposed to be, and let me say it again, supposed to be your first loves, the first people that you see that interact. with loving. So maybe you didn't come from that. And there you go with the communication. You say, look, my daddy wasn't in the house. I was raised by blah, 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 blah. I'm raised by a single mom. Some things you do, I may not even understand. It's not that I don't like what you're doing. I just don't understand it. Can you share with me some of the things that you could do, that you're going to do? You have to communicate. That's one of the things you have to communicate. And I do tell you this, and I know I'm going to step on somebody's toe, and it may light up. Birth order is very important,
Mm.
and that's research done too. And another thing is only children. You got to think, if this person has never shared anything in their life, they can come from poverty or they can be wealthy.
Mm.
Could that make a never sharing anything? Because they can be good to people and respect people, but now you're asking them to give something of themselves and they never have shared. And it's a lot of things that go into making your partner, because what works for you may not work for me.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do agree.
And the reason I asked you to repeat your question was not only because it was triggering to me, JR, because I don't identify with that statement, but also because I feel like I lack some knowledge in that department when it comes to what other women have experienced growing up. And I can't really speak to too much of like what other Latino households were like, but I can speak to mine. So I do want to put that out there. Some of us, if you are dealing with parents of a certain age, certain demographic, and this could not just be a culture thing. This could be across the board with age. But my parents did not speak to me other than this is what we need you to do. How was school, little things. Like, we didn't talk about relationships. We definitely didn't talk about boyfriend. I just knew I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend. And then all of a sudden, they were okay with me dating. But I never got the birds and the bees conversation. I never got this is what you should expect from a man. This is how a man would treat you. I think it was just everything I was expected to learn just off of observation. So what I definitely knew was how a woman is supposed to be in a household, as far as my understanding, by watching my mother. But she never sat me down and said, Mija, I do this for your father because all I knew was that this is my father. He has the title of a husband to her, and this is what she's doing. But she's not telling me, because he does this, this is how I'm okay with this. And there was a lot of questions that came with that. So I know I didn't grow up with the knowledge of what to expect from a man, but I definitely knew how to be submissive and the things that would typically be expected of me. And I would get praised for that very often. But I think that's why my standards were always really low. So I was giving to people who weren't earning it. So that's another reason why I asked you to repeat the question, because I haven't experienced that. Ladies, sound off in the chat if you think you've experienced that. And I think that's also why it's so important for parents, fathers, and mothers to talk to your children. Set them up for success, especially when it comes to later down the line when they're choosing their lifelong partner, if that's a choice that they want to make.
Very true. I definitely understand that.
I do want to get in the comments really quickly. Heather Reese said, not all women are the same, just as not all men are the same. Just when a Chica said, dude is putting us most women in a single bracket. Yeah, no. Sunshine said, that's just how JR is. Just when a Chica said, attachment styles. And 100, the same with me and a Mexican old school household. Okay, so you feel it.
I don't know. I heard what you said, but I'm not just talking about your parents raising you. I'm talking about what you experience from society, all the stuff that goes into it, what a lot of these women are trying to tell you. A lot of times they're going to tell you how to get a man, but like we've talked about before, how to retain a man is the hard part. Can we agree
I
with
don't
that?
think I was that influenced by that either. Like I've had more men that I've talked to about relationships or my relationship struggles back in the day that have put me on more of like, gee, what are you doing? You're tripping. You need to be asking for this, and this. And if you don't get this, he doesn't really care about you. And this is how he's moving. I've gotten that more from men than I have from my homegirls, to
From
be
what to
honest.
that's what I'm saying. From what to expect from a man. We all know what chivalry is, but our parents never taught us that. We all know what it is. Well, a lot of people's parents never taught us that. And you just said your parents never taught about it, but you know what it is. I'm just saying a lot of the times we know what to
Well, I
expect
knew
from a
what
man.
respect was. I knew what respect was. And I could see certain
Hmm.
things like that, but that doesn't speak
Yeah.
to the inner workings of the relationship. You know what I'm saying? That's out there. That's observed, of course, but it doesn't speak to the inner workings. And when you're growing up in the household with them, you see a lot of things as a child you don't really understand. And then they choose to stay together. And that is that commitment part. But because they're not having that conversation, again, still didn't know what to expect from a man. All I knew was he does that. I don't like that. When I grow up, I don't want that.
Yeah,
So it
from
never clicked.
expectation, but it's still not. Well, what do I do? How do I do to get like? How do I retain a man? Nobody talks about how to retain one. We talk about how to get women. We talk about how to get man, but nobody tells you how to retain one. And I think that's also important. Like I said, like it's important to have these conversations way before even married, even for a man. How to retain a woman? How to really understand who that woman is. Men will drop down on one knee and then figure it out later, and I think that's wrong.
Stop doing that.
I swear. Most of these women in here can say they've been proposed multiple times, probably proposed to multiple times. To be honest, I'm
Get
all
it,
I'm saying,
ladies. What?
but I'm
You got more
saying,
than one man want to be your husband?
see, but
What?
to get him, I think it's very simple to get men. They're very simple. But to retain
Mm.
a good man that you want, I think that is very difficult. And I think that comes again, like I said, it's just how we were brought up, the influence around us, everything that came towards us. It just doesn't teach us how to treat a man. It doesn't. And the same thing, like I said, men cannot have expectations of a woman. We just can't. It looked at as bad. If we want you to do whatever, no. What are you trying to control me? No, no, no. That's how society's looked at it.
I don't think it's.
I hope that we
I
can put them
think,
together. I do hope.
yeah,
But let's be
I
honest.
agree.
This is
But
what it looks like.
And I think media does that to us because the drama and the extraness and the negativity always gets more clicks and reactions and things like that. But I don't know. Maybe it's the whole fairy tale mindset that everybody on here loves to say G has. But I would like to think that there's a lot of people who are the opposite. I think you would be really, really, really surprised with that. LaDonna, I'm curious your thoughts on what JR was mentioning just now.
So we're not being the expectations. I
Mhm.
still say you have to look at it at not just all oranges or just all apples. You have a variety. You have a fruit basket, and even though I could tell you this is how this happened, and then you could meet somebody that everything that I told you went out the window. It's the same way. And when you start going, I go back to Christian, people who are Christian. Guess what they tell you? Be equally yoked. So
Mhm.
how you grow up and you saying get someone that's in the church. That's what you're saying, right? But it doesn't mean just that. It means that you all like the same thing, the family setting, you have the same kind of mindset. There are some things that you need to have, but nobody told you that part of it. You just thinking he's a church girl, this is a church girl, or this is a church boy, or whatever, whatever. So I think that we pick out what we want to tell,
Mhm.
or we choose, we do some cherry picking, and the ones that we don't, like we're getting ready to have Valentine's. So, you get the Valentine box, and some of the
Mhm.
candy, you squeeze it and like, ugh, that don't taste good. Let's move this. I think pick the one, you keep the ones that you want. Uh,
Mhm.
So it's just not a one size fit all. So, but I can tell you this: it's a one size just for you.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to something that I kind of shared with you. I remember I told you I have a friend who started out as a divorce coach, but she ended up being an infidelity coach
Mm-hmm.
because with social media, people are drawn to you, to that person. Everybody is not going to like what you're saying, but the people that you see and you see constantly, your message is for them. I have like 10 people I'm always gonna see. I can have 100 in online, but it's gonna be those 10. And what I'm saying is just for those 10. And JR, for you, what you're saying is just for that person. You hadn't said it to the right person. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm,
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I'm
I'll ponder on that.
and I'm gonna say this. We have this little box, as I'm gonna say it's women. I ain't gonna say it's men because I don't know what y'all have a box. Do y'all have a box or not? Certain attributes that you want to have. And I'm gonna tell you, God has a sense of humor.
Mm.
I'm tall, like I'm tall.
Are
I'm
you?
Yeah, I'm tall. I'm not the average height. I'm tall, and when I have on heels, I'm a little bit over 6 feet.
Okay.
So I'm tall. So I wanted tall hair. I like beards. I had all this stuff, and so the appearance, it was certain things I wanted as appearance. I have short and bald, but the person, my mind and my heart, our mind and our heart are together.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that when I was, you want to look. He's right, Mr. Wilson or Jr. was talking about looking a certain way. Women do that too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost 6 feet tall. When I put on heels, so I like to wear heels. And somebody's who's just 5 something, I'm like, wow. And it was so funny when I met him. He, because we was on a blind date. My girlfriend said, "Oh, I'm gonna let you meet my brother-in-law." I'm like, okay. So the brother is 6'4". Her husband is 6'4",
Mm-hmm.
and he's 5'8". So and when I saw him, I'm like, I know this is not him. And I'm just looking. So
Mm-hmm.
I called him, and he said hello. And I saw him. I'm like, oh my God, what have you done to me, Jesus? But
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in the package. It was what was on the inside. And when I said we've dated for 7 years, and it's a reason why. And that's about the dust settling, and you have children, and you have, all this other kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to bring people in different situations. We never had an argument. Never. If he says something or it hurts him, or I say something and it hurts me, we don't speak to it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
We come to it. We did not sit down and have a discussion about that. It's like we know how to move. It's almost like you moving together. Do we have
Mm-hmm.
disagreements? Yes, we do. He thinks one way, I think the other way. But the disagreements don't outweigh our love.
Mm-hmm.
So, JR, you hadn't found the person for JR. Like I didn't, in all my getting, like you said, your mom. I come from my parents were preachers, ministers, Black Baptist preachers.
Mm.
And so I came from a religious household. I saw my dad do this, and so I thought that everybody gonna do like my dad do. And most girls, that's the reason why I said it's very important, that role that you see coming up. And it was totally opposite. But he looked like the person that would have did what my dad would do. And now this little person whom I love does everything that my dad did.
Mm.
Like, it's crazy. And he tells me, "You just like my mama." Like, okay, boy, but I'm saying, you all have to you all have to it's more to it. It's
Yeah.
more to it. It is so much more. But I promise you, for those of you who are divorced, because I want to say this, speak to you, I had to work on myself. Because when I came out of that divorce, I was angry, I was bitter, I was
Mm.
mad because I didn't want to get a divorce, and here I am. Nobody's in my family has a divorce. Why I'm divorcing all this mess, all my children, all of those things went, and I had to work on myself. I had to figure out what I really liked. And it's not about, and it wasn't about money or anything like that. It was actually me being a person, because I knew that my face would change. I knew that my body would change. I knew all this physical stuff was gonna go. And what could I do? Could I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with this person and we be okay?
Mm.
And that's what you have to understand if you want to go into another relationship. And
Yes.
you gotta get your mind right. You can't hold on to, well, this woman did this, because it's going to keep you from being happy and successful.
Mhm.
You will never, that person that you're gonna always, when you are dating someone, guess what? You're gonna always think, when it's gonna happen, when is she gonna act like my ex, or if it's with a man, when is he gonna act
Mhm.
like my ex? When is a monster gonna come out of the box? You gotta work on yourself.
I got a question. The guy, your significant other, if you had, I don't know, like let's say y'all met in a grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
and if he walked up to you, do you think you would have gave him your attention then, when it was, let's say, a random situation? You said he wasn't your initial type at the beginning. If he walked up to you in a grocery store, would you have gave him the exact same attention that you did when you were on a blind date?
Well, okay, so on the blind date, I was stuck with him because because I wasn't. I'm like, I can't mess this up for my friend. Um, at that time, 7 years ago, probably no. I probably may have talked to him, but if it had been the 8th year, because I was still actually working on my mind,
Mhm.
I became open to whatever it looked like. I'm literally, and JR, I want to say this because, yeah, I've been dating his, but I dated a Latino.
Mhm.
When I say you have to have experiences, and it was funny thing. You talk about family. It is family to the hundredth thing. Like when he said my birthday, he called me Bibbs. Your birthday, people flew in and we had Corona beer everywhere, and it was on the front yard, and people was coming. I'm like, oh, okay, okay, okay. But he wanted me to go back to Argentina with him. I can't do that. But he wasn't. He was totally different than the tall, dark, and so I had gotten kind of used to these different flavors, and I
Mhm.
had taken away the boxes. Uh, but it came with me still working on my mind. I'm just gonna be honest. Your mindset plays a lot. And I can just hear my daddy say, "My mind and my heart." Your mind. Once you get that clutter out your mind and start, like, getting these boxes out your way and start just saying, "Okay, whatever it is that life brings me, I'm going to accept it, see open up the package. If the package belongs to me, if not, I'm going to let it go. But it came across my path for a reason and a purpose. Because
That's amazing.
the Latino, guess what? He showed me about how, because I'm come from a very small family. He
Mm.
had like, it was so many people. I'm like it was like I had went to a whole party in a
Yeah.
I'm like literally like for real. Everything they do big, really big.
Mhm.
But he prepared me, and I want you all to listen to this life thing, this thing that the reason why life kind of journeys in life in you. The guy that I'm with have 10 sisters and they got 10 siblings.
Mm.
So that was preparing me for this.
Mm.
And guess what? He has the party house. So now I have gotten you. I had came into it now with all these people, and now I'm with someone who we have parties. Like when I say we have parties, we have huge parties. So
Hey.
yeah, everything about it, you gotta start practicing on your mind. And Jr., I want you to be open because you sound like a sweetheart. Be open.
Mhm.
I am now on this journey of abstinence, and I have been so much more open to experiences than you could possibly imagine.
Yes.
Very.
That is good for you, JR. I'm really proud of JR and anybody who's choosing to do something different outside of their comfort zone to better themselves, to learn themselves. It is about that time. This conversation is so good. And LaDonna, I do want to ask you definitely to come back. Um, oh no, did we lose me? Am I back?
No,
No,
you're
I'm
here,
back.
G.
Okay. I heard something. Anyways, it's anywho. But we definitely want to have you. I want to have you back on because this conversation was so good. It was so beautiful. You're so well spoken. But it is about that time for final thoughts. JR, you know we always start with you. What are your final thoughts after tonight's episode?
It's high noon.
Look, I know I don't believe in marriage, contractual with the government, but that's me. If you do, I commend you on that. Just do right by that other person. And what is right is the truth. And the truth to the other person, I want you to also be true to you. And if you just so happen to have to get a divorce, right? That is a life altering decision. Whether you made, the other person made, but ultimately it has happened. I truly believe that you're going to need somebody. You're going to need to talk to somebody. You're going to want understanding. As human beings, that's what we want, is understanding. Even if it's not from that person that you feel abandoned you or neglected you, you just want understanding. And then hopefully they do the same thing and get understanding. And maybe, hopefully, you get to a point where you can understand their decisions and understand where it went wrong and then do better for yourself, ultimately. Not for the next person, but for yourself.
Yes.
And these conversations need to be had right here. And we're going to keep having these tough conversations. We're going to keep having these uncomfortable conversations because we want people to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I just want to let everybody know I love you on this Thursday. Women, please don't send nudes.
Oh Lord. Oh my goodness. Beautiful words, JR. I'm really proud of you for real. Miss LaDonna, what are your final thoughts that you want to leave our audience with tonight?
I want you to I'm going back to when the dust settles. I want you to make sure that you take care of yourself. I want you to prepare yourself. I want you to be confident in yourself that when you're dating or when you meet someone, that you can be your authentic self. If you cannot, that's a red flag. It's just red as this red jacket I have on. If you cannot be yourself, it may not be the right thing for you. If you cannot, that may not be what you need to do. So always be true to yourself. Take care of your mind, take care of yourself. And always be willing to bounce back. You Sometimes you just have to lose. Sometimes you are a loser. It's okay. The
Yeah.
reason why we have a light bulb is because of Thomas Edison and how many times he tried to create and invent the light bulb. I don't know, it was like 100 and sometimes, that he tried, but he kept on trying. So I don't want you to give up on yourself. I don't want you to give up on love. Even though you divorced, it's okay. Go through, you can cry, it's okay. You can be angry, it's okay. You can feel disappointed, it's okay. Sometimes you may even feel a little depressed, it's okay. But don't get stuck in that. Get up and keep moving. That's all.
I love that. I love her so much. Oh my goodness. You guys, this was a really deep conversation. I do appreciate y'all's views and participation in this. Don't forget to like the episode. This episode definitely deserves a like. Listen, I know, again, like I started off this episode, y'all are used to us cutting up, having a good time, all the things. But these conversations, like JR said, they absolutely need to be had. And I want y'all to know that that is the goal at Life with G Podcast, is to bring these uncomfortable conversations to your TV screens, to your phones, and force y'all to sit down and listen to each other. We listen and we don't judge, but getting different perspectives is really going to help prepare you for whatever steps you are taking in life. Definitely take care of yourself. Make sure you understand what you're getting into before you start diving into it. All right? Do not rush it. If you are getting married with the traditional vows, put God at the center of your relationship. That is why you are getting married.
Yep.
And that's really, I could say so much, but we have said so much, and we can even do an extension to this if y'all want. Let us know in the comments if you would like to have Miss LaDonna back. Y'all, I do want to highlight something really quick before I let y'all go. We go live every Tuesday, Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube, but your girl's going on other podcasts. So tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time, go to Ho Busters podcast. If y'all remember Miss Dari on our Ho Busters episode, I was on hers and I was talking about some stuff. So be sure to go check that out. I'll make sure to post that on my socials as well. We are extending the family. Everybody join the fold, okay? And if anybody tells you that you can't, yes, the fuck you can. Besos and blessings. Have a good night.
Good night.